Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. This is Chris, and I'd like to invite you to another conversation about your Kundalini awakening experiences. And today we're just going to dive into it. Often during the Kundalini, you'll find yourself in deep connection with a divine source. You'll find this connection, this will be fairly obvious to you. This may not come in as bold and brilliant or fast and hard of a phenomena as a person may think. It can just come with a couple of words into your head. It can come by allowing yourself to get into kind of a trancy type of meditation or devotion. When the divine comes to you and is connected with you, you really want to, first of all, discern that this is indeed the case, and you'll feel how divinity differs from, say, a discarnate entity, or a shall we say, a lower spirit without a body. And when you're able to discern that, when you're able to know, oh, okay, this is the divine. You know, it is really upon you to give up levels of your comfort, of your how you feel like accepting Kundalini in your life. You really kind of want to just let yourself go into a total absorption mode. This allows you to accept what the divine is giving you with a greater level of receptivity and a greater level of understanding, a greater level of being able to follow the instructions, if it's instructions that are given, that the divine could give to you. It really allows for you to begin to fulfill your commitment, whether you made it in this life or before you took the body for this life, the commitment to following the divine and expressing the divine and having the divine express to you and through you. This is not the easiest thing. Okay, having divinity expressed through you can be incredibly shattering on the one hand and incredibly enlightening on the other, and sometimes both. Sometimes you need to be shattered in order for you to be able to discern, for you to be able to accept the divine imperative that's coming through you. So many of us, we spend 95% of our time living our life from the ego. Oh yes, we'll come home and we'll do our safeties practice, we'll do the 5 Tibetans, we'll do the alternate nostril breathe, we'll do all those things, and in many cases we'll do that well, but as soon as we get into the car, we're back to our old ego habits. And in this program today, I really want you to begin to make a point to not change how you are during your Kundalini practice simply because you're getting in your car or you're getting on the bus or you're getting on the subway or you're getting on whatever you're doing to bring yourself into the public environment. You don't just get to slip right back into ego mode. The divine coming through you isn't just for home use, okay? It's for all the time use, 24/7 use. And, you know, when you give yourself to the divine, you give yourself to the divine, you give yourself to God, you give yourself to Shakti, the Kundalini, I mean, whatever label you want to use, when you give yourself to the divine, you really want to follow through with that as much as possible. But before I go further, I better do a sound check here. Mary Jean or Vincent or Brent or anybody who can who can type on the chat room there. Let me know if the sound is coming through clearly, would you please? We have, oh, great. Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. We've been given the go-ahead. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so when you have made that divine connection, the divine comes to you. The divine gives you an instruction of some sort, whether it is to surrender to a situation, or to surrender to itself, or to make some sort of a compact or an agreement with the divine. You don't just get to go back on your word. These are very, very strong areas. And for those of you right now that are going through some of the harder and more challenging areas of a Kundalini awakening, well, you know how hard this can be. And you know, hopefully not too well, but you know that the blowback from being disrespectful, from being lazy, from being, in some way not consistent with the agreements that you have made with the divine that is expressing through you, but also the divine expressing outside of you, well, that can have some fairly strong ramifications. So, for instance, let's just say, well, we have a businessman and he's having kriyas, and he's got a business meeting, and he can't have the kriyas while he's having the business meeting. We'll just say the kriyas cause him to do yoga postures on the floor. Well, that's not going to go over well at a stockholders meeting or a business meeting of some sort. And so this person rightfully goes to the Shakti in prayer and says, Shakti, please don't bring me the kriyas during my business meeting or my shareholders meeting, and I will give you all the time for the rest of the day or night or early morning that you might require for the kriyas to take place. Well, let's just say that he doesn't keep his end of the bargain. Kundalini comes in, doesn't give him a kriya during his meeting, and yet he just doesn't remember, or he chooses not to respect his end of the bargain. Well, those kriyas are going to come hot and heavy for a time, and there will be no stopping. There will be no, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. No, there is no, apology, some convenient apology that a person can give to the divine, that hides other forms of thought or emotional baggage that the person may be expressing through at that time. You got to remember, the Kundalini basically sees you as you are. It sees the truth of you all the time. There is no hiding from it. And so it's very, very, very important for you to begin to understand how it is that you keep your promises to the Kundalini. And this is different. This is different than, oh, gosh, I forgot the meeting, oh gosh, I'm consistently late for my Boy Scout meeting, or that type of a thing. This is very, very different. This is the sacred agreements that you make with the divine that's opening up within you. You really got to pay attention to those. You can't just get in your car and slip in, like a glove, into the old ego patterns of disrespect, the old ego patterns of inconsideration, the old ego patterns of my way or the highway, the old ego patterns of just being argumentative or whatever, however that may express through an individual. It's very important that you begin to take stock of the agreements that you've made with the divine, of the agreements that you've made with God, especially when you have the Kundalini activated or awakening within you. This is so, so, so very important. Ladies and gentlemen, this is so very, very important that I want you to pay close attention to it. I want you to pay close attention to the levels of agreement that you make with your Kundalini and how you hold up your end of the deal. It may seem that the Kundalini has it easy. Well, I guess it does. It just hovers around there and, just waits for you to go into a devotional state or a meditational state, and it does its work. Well, it's not like that. The Kundalini is working on you 24/7. You just may not feel it all the time. A divine platform is being constructed within you, using your spine as the fundamental building material. Your spine and the 5 bodies of human expression. So any kind of an agreement that you make with the divine within you must be upheld, must be held to the highest level of appreciation that a person can have. I'm going to go ahead and turn this phone off here. Yeah. So it must be held to an extremely high level of appreciation so that you form that trust. You form the sound basis for being able to allow yourself to have some wiggle room during some of the more difficult areas of the Kundalini awakening. So, for instance, another thing that you could have is if a person is in the entity stage, well, maybe those entities, maybe those screamings and those cuss words that might be shouting to you in your head, or any of the various ways that the Kundalini or that the entities try to get your attention. You could go to the Kundalini and say, "My Kundalini, I have a meeting. I must go to this meeting. I cannot be bothered by the entities during this meeting." And those entity interactions may be toned down for you. I won't guarantee it. But it does seem to work about 65 to 70% of the time when people are asking about, say, Kriyas. Well, if they have that business meeting to go to and they ask the Kundalini not to bring them Kriyas during that meeting, but they will open up time, in their daytime, conscious time, to have the Kriyas, well, she will step in, and typically those Kriyas will be removed. And you hold up your end of the bargain. And so, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, you've got those Kriyas coming on strong, and you just got to accept that. Let that occur. Part of the deal. And this gives you a very, very, very strong understanding with regards to how the divine within you understands the difficulties that you have living your what do they call it? 3D, your 3D life, or 2D, or whatever it is. It understands that it's not the easiest thing to have Kundalini and live in a Western technological environment. And so it's very important for you to have some of that wiggle room that allows you to live your life here in the 3D world, I guess. Somebody in the chat room, correct me. Is it like 3D? What are we here in our conscious state? Driving around cars, and is it 2D, 1D, 3D, 4D? I don't know, but it's some sort of a D. They make up these words to suit their own New Age belief system. But in our waking environment, it is so very important to live the agreements that you make with the Kundalini. So, for instance, let me give you an example here. So let's just say John Smith, and I'm just using John Smith. That's a name that I'm just pulling out of thin air right now. So John Smith has been, has the Kundalini, activated within him, and he knows that he needs to do devotion, and he needs to do meditation, and he needs to follow the safeties. So John Smith, he's following the safeties. He's doing his devotion. I give myself to you, my Kundalini. I give you control of my life. I give you my life. I give you control of my emotions. I give you my emotions. And he goes right on through every aspect of his life that he's giving to the Kundalini. And he does this, like, say, for a period of months, and he's doing well, and he's getting a lot of phenomena from it. He's getting energetic surges, and he's getting visions, and he's being given very, very specific information that otherwise couldn't have been received. And he's doing this, and he's doing this, and he's doing this, and all of a sudden he just says, "Oh, forget this." Well, there's going to be some fairly strong blowback for an individual that decides to make that type of a gesture, kind of like, throwing the middle finger up to the face of the divine. And it's very important that you do not do this. You do not want to do this. I will say, don't do the meditation, don't do the devotion, don't do anything rather than, going into disobedience to the divine. All kinds of very interesting things can happen to a person that does this. I am looking. We have a question. Okay, so looks like I am going to come over to Mr. Greg here.
Hello.
Hi, Greg. How are you?
Oh, I'm great.
How may I help you today? You have the Kundalini?
Well, I think so. I mean, okay. I haven't gone through the naming of it.
So what?
I did about how to name it. I call it the divine.
Okay.
My question has to do with part of the entity stage.
The entity stage, okay.
Yeah. One thing that was happening to me was I felt like I was picking up on too much of local consciousness.
Of what consciousness?
Mostly local, or problems or entities that were affecting, the population. And probably over the course, off and on, another thing that words I was getting was that I should start writing, that I should start expressing myself. And in one particular dream, it was as though my throat chakra, I was having issues with it. And then I understood in the dream that I was to speak my voice. Okay? And it came, as far as the reason why I was having those entity-related problems, I believe was I wasn't projecting my energy out far enough. It was almost as though I was called to make an impact on the earth rather than be passive. And that by getting my energy, my voice out there, doing some writings, maybe preparing to do maybe some YouTube videos, that by expressing myself, I would expand that energy field to where I would be, putting things out into the universe rather than just receiving the burden or the fear that the rest of the world was going through. And I was wondering what you thought about that, as far as
definitely the Kundalini will give you the compulsion to write what it is saying through you, to give through you to others, that they may participate consciously in a Kundalini awakening, or within the area that a Kundalini awakening person has. And so, yeah, you're right on target.
Okay, thanks. Because I was struggling with a while with meditation on how to deal with thoughts, know whether to bless them, send the white light, or be aggressive. And this was finally, I think, one of the final messages I got on what I'm supposed to do. But there's a lot of different attitudes with people on how to treat entities.
My typical response for entity treatment is to ignore them completely. Have absolutely nothing to do with them. They feed off of your attention. Attention has energy, and if they can get you to place your attention on them, which is what they're doing in the first place, they're saying things to you, or they're appearing in front of you, taking off their head, whatever, sticking their head through the wall, whatever, and they're using very, very basic scare tactics to try to get your attention. If you pay them no attention, they have nothing to consume.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense, because getting my own words out there means I'm paying attention to my own energy, my own words, and I'm feeding that rather than feeding them. So that,
one thing, I would suggest that you begin to look at it as Kundalini's words coming through you, rather than your own words. Because if it is the Kundalini that is compelling you to write these words, it is not your consciousness that is being engaged. It is your consciousness that is being used by the divine to type the words, or to write the words, or to speak the words that the divine gives you. And so you really want to really give credit where credit is due with regards to that, and that would be to the divine.
Okay. Sounds perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And if anybody else has a question that they would like to ask, feel free to call area code 347-934-0026. That's 347-934-0026, and we will continue. And I want to thank you, Greg, for some excellent questions there. Nicely done, and welcome to the program. So, as you know, let's just take Greg's example. He's got the entities, and they're doing their best to take him off of his focus and perhaps his concentration with regards to doing what the Kundalini wants him to do. Well, he's already solidified that the Kundalini wants him to do some writing. But if he were just to turn around and say, well, no, I don't feel like doing any writing to the Kundalini, well, what do you think is going to happen with that? Okay, there's going to be a tete-a-tete, as they say, a communication. In many ways, with the Kundalini is a huge, tremendous level of joy, love, beauty, connection, divine interaction that is so beautiful and so wanted by so many people on this world that it'll come to a person who doesn't really understand the magnificence that is occurring, and this person will basically treat it in a very, very shall we say disrespectful way, and within that disrespect, a person can really, really begin to start digging a hole for themselves. And so in this program, I really want you to begin to look at how you're communicating with your Kundalini. What agreements are you making? What agreements have you already made? I want you to review those agreements, and I want you to audit them for how well you've been able to keep that agreement, for how well you've been able to follow through on your end of the agreement. And that agreement can just be doing meditation or just doing devotion. A lot of you have a hard time doing meditation. A lot of people that the Kundalini comes to, they're not meditators. They don't know. They tried to meditate a couple of times, and they saw some lights, and they felt some vibrations, and it kind of scared them a little bit. Well, maybe meditation is not for me. But at the same time, the Kundalini has activated through them. And so the Kundalini understands where the person is at when it begins to emerge within them. However, with regards to a person that is expressing strong levels of innocent ignorance, well, a softness is given into them and into that relationship so that they begin to understand that, hey, wow, this is a real big deal. This is beautiful. This is amazing. This is divine. And then, only then does the Kundalini start to take a stronger parenting role with regards to the person's attention and appreciation of the agreements that have been made. So it really, really, really points you in the direction of how Kundalini itself, as a parent of a child, at first when you don't know what's going on, in many ways, you can't really, on a conscious level, you can't really be punished for making whatever mistakes you make. Sometimes it will occur, though, I have to say. I mean, sometimes the karmic layer that still exists with Kundalini awakening and activating people, the karmic layer will also have a level of influence on how the Kundalini will respond to that individual. And that karma can change the response mechanism that the Kundalini uses to either correct or to instill more knowledge into the person. Okay. So I wanted to talk with you about that today. And, the bottom line is this. You keep your word to Kundalini. You keep your word to grace. You never go against it. If you, 5 years ago, if you were giving a strong level of devotion to a teacher or to the Kundalini within that teacher, to the Kundalini within yourself, and you just stopped for whatever reason, and you've seen your life start to really kind of spiral into a tougher way of living, into a position where you're not enjoying life as much, where you don't get along with other people, where you feel compelled to do things, but you're too lazy to follow up on that compulsion. This is that area. You get kind of caught into this whirlpool that's dragging you down, 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 and down. And I'm going to really strongly suggest that you go right back to that devotion, to those agreements that you were making to the divine, and you begin to fulfill them. You don't let yourself slide. You don't let yourself off the hook. You really, really, stretch yourself as much as you need to, but you come back into alignment with those promises that you made to the divine within you. Just extremely important. So just an FYI for you with that. Now I'm going to bring Her Holiness online here. And here she is. Hi, Santara.
Hi, Prism. Hi, everyone.
So how are you today? How are things at
I'm
11
very
o'clock
good.
p.m. in the Emerald Isle?
Well, very good.
Living.
Stormy, rainy, icy cold as well, actually. So
time to go to the beach.
Weather. Is my sound okay, Chrism?
Yes, it is. Sounds just fine.
Okay, cool. I'm on my mobile phone tonight, and my iPad went kaput. So that's a little bit tricky when I'm on the phone. So I keep it at this distance. That's good.
Okay. Do you have anything to add to this topic?
Have you? I don't know. It's a really
have you found
such a vast
topic. Have you found yourself at odds with the Kundalini and the way it's directed you?
Well, I mean, I certainly, from the very beginning I have made agreements with the Kundalini, a contract, let's say, with the Kundalini, a contract of surrender. And so, I mean, I suppose over time, I didn't realize at the beginning, I suppose, the importance of that contract, but and the ego will squirm, Chrism. So in that sense, yes, I would find myself at odds. My ego, sometimes has a difficult time. But the amazing thing that I discovered was that, how this agreement is really, it's like the foundation stone. It's like what I come back to all the time. There's no change in that now. It is the place of absolutism for me, if you know what I mean. And so even though my ego at times has difficulty, because I know the importance, the essentiality really of my agreement with Kundalini.
Did you say
I don't let that.
Did you say
essentiality?
Yeah,
is that a word?
Thank you for that.
Yeah, it is essential. It is. Because without that, if I forget or if I allow my ego or my inner child, let's say as well, to control or to move me away from my agreement of surrender. I mean, my agreement with the Kundalini really, in a sentence, is the Kundalini controls my life, every single aspect of it, and I am in adoration to that. I'm in, worship of the Kundalini, devotion to the Kundalini. And, what you were saying earlier about it goes outside of the practice. It's something that has to be done all the time, really. It's not just something to put away, and take it in and out. It's supposed to be, and it becomes more, so that it runs through all my living, And if I speak for myself, when I'm very clear of my agreement, and I love the fact that you said, come back and review it and look at it again. I think we have to do that constantly. It's like, let's say something goes on. I mean, the Kundalini, let's say something comes up, and we'll call it a test. It's, you can take out then, I can take out my contract, let's say, and look at it and go, yeah, this is my contract, so I work with this. And I don't allow the ego to, insofar as I can, in theory. I mean, sometimes I'm not great at it, but for the most part, I don't allow the ego to override my agreement or my inner child. I mean, I need to say that to my agreement.
Isn't that one and the same, though? Isn't the ego and the inner child one and the same?
I guess it is, Kristen, because it's long ago that the ego was formed when the inner, I guess it is. It's sometimes I can see different aspects of the ego, I suppose, and it could be the same thing. It is, of course. But anyway, so I mean, there's so much in what you're saying there.
What has happened when you've gone against? What has happened when you've gone against those agreements? Anything, provocative?
Oh, well, I mean, there's, it hurts me. I mean, I feel pain from that, and for a while I can be confused as to what that pain is about, because I might be feeling angry or whatever. But I mean, I can have physical kickback, Sometimes, I mean, if you were to take food, not so much that with me any longer. I feel when I go against what the Kundalini wishes for me to do, I know when I'm going against it. I know when I'm falling from grace, I know it. I can't think of any specific example now this minute, Prism. Might come to me later. Can you?
Yes. Well, I'm not going to say anything.
Because I just shared, stuff. I just can't recall this minute. Yeah.
Well, it does occur.
But, I mean, we must keep our word.
Oh, right? Yeah. When it does, like for me, it like you, it gives you pain. You get pained in it, but it's not like a slap in the face. It's like a slap in the heart.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
Get slapped,
yes.
Slapped on your heart, or you get your heart spanked in a way, and boy, does it get your attention. It's amazing. It's an amazing level of communication that the Kundalini gives you in these moments. And I would like to welcome Tahia to the program, as well as Vincent and Mary J. and Elena Seeker and Brent D. When he comes back. I know that for those of you in the chat room, I just want you to know that I don't know whether it's the Wi-Fi signal or whatever, but sometimes Blog Talk will just kind of like bump you off of the chat room, and I just want to encourage you to come right back on. It's not a problem. Okay? All right. So as we continue with this, it's very, very, very important for you to keep your agreements with the Kundalini. Don't because people can't see it with their physical eyes, and they're not typically, able to mold it with their hands or to sense it in any other way besides some of the higher functions. People tend to take it more for granted than they would if it was something that was showing up in a physical body. Don't make that mistake. Kundalini is ever, ever present within you. It knows what you're thinking. It knows what your challenges are. It knows where your blockages are. It's helping you only as much as it determines your help is appropriate. And everybody is different with that, because once again, we come to this table with all different levels of karma and all different levels of karmic balancing or the need for balancing. And so take this advice to heart, ladies and gentlemen. Keep your agreements with the Kundalini. If you give yourself to a teacher that the Kundalini is giving you to, if you're giving yourself just to the Kundalini itself and it hasn't given you a teacher, you keep your commitments. And once again, I'm not saying, I'm late for this appointment or I'm late for that appointment. I think, if you're a purist with it, then yeah, okay, sure, you can tighten up your punctuality and you can tighten up where you need to be more fastidious with your timelines. So, for instance, if you go to a meditation center and they meditate at 9 p.m. every evening, and you're there at 9:15 or 9:30, and you're just kind of walking in late consistently. Well, then okay, I can understand that. I certainly wouldn't throw the book at you for that type of a thing, because, gosh, not everybody has, the schedule that everybody else has, and sometimes it's a little more challenging for others than it is for the other people that are there. I understand that, but with the divine, it's a very, very, very different deal. You do not get into that car and turn into that ranting, finger pointing, rockaholic, turning on the radio and just cussing at people on the freeway. You don't do that. You don't do that at all. Ever, actually. And you don't do it to those who have been assigned to give you instruction either. The levels of sacredness must be maintained outside of the of the cloistered area. You have to have this in public. And that it's a strange sensation. I get that. It's not, for some of us, it may not be a very common thing to be courteous and open the door for a person or offer a person that's ahead of us in line some of our extra change if they're just coming up a little short for their purpose or their purchase. It's about living the integrity of divinity. What is divine integrity? Oh, here, that's a good. We'll go over here to Santara. Santara, what is divine integrity? I'd like you to explain that to me, please.
I knew you were going to.
Tell me about that.
I'm gone completely black. Divine integrity is something that doesn't change. I know that. It's not something that's a movable feast, is it? Divine integrity is sacred. I don't know. Go over and ask somebody else who's answer better than I.
Who do we have here? Let's see. Oh, okay. Just a second here. We'll go to another caller here. And hi, Eileen.
Oh. Hi, Chrism.
Tell me, Eileen, what is divine integrity?
Well, it seems to me that it would be following, you're talking about commitments and contracts, it would be following and being honest with that contract.
What is the divine end of the deal, though, Eileen?
Oh! I'll pass like Santara.
No worries, no worries. I have another person I'm going to come to with this. It's like, is this...
I didn't quite pass, though.
Is this Joey? Is this Joey?
Joey just came on, you betcha.
Hi, Joey. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine. I just got off the plane from Fort Lauderdale.
Oh my gosh, from the hot to the cold.
Right.
Well, Joey, can you tell me what your impression of what divine integrity is? What does that mean?
I think divine suggests perfection, integrity with no lapse. That would be my take. Awesome. You just hit it right on the head, my dear. Welcome to Minnesota. Thank you for answering that question. Okay. Well, that's great. Yes. It is the purest form of integrity that a human being can appreciate. It is so pure. It is inviolable, and because it is so strong in its strength, it cannot be damaged. It cannot be injured. The only thing that can really happen with divine integrity is the person that the divine is working with refuses to follow through on their commitment with that divine integrity, that ultimate pure integrity. The person is saying, I don't care. I just want to get drunk and drive my car fast and break as many rules I can, not get caught. And I want to disrespect everybody that I just feel like disrespect. I don't want to. I'm not going to keep any of these promises. Who am I keeping a promise to anyway? You can't see them half the time. So you don't get to do that anymore, folks. When you have the Kundalini, your life changes. When you have the Kundalini, the way you live your life changes. You don't get to slip back and forth. You don't get to put the ego on like a glove and then take the ego glove off and put the Kundalini glove on. Once the Kundalini glove is on you, it is sewn into your skin. It is sewn into your soul, into your heart. It's very, very, very important for people to understand that. And it really helps you to move forward within the Kundalini as you make this information aware with yourself. As you go to yourself and say, okay, wow, I've been so blessed. I have the Kundalini. Well, okay, my life is over. And my new Kundalini life is beginning. So Joey's life is over. And I'm using Joey because she answered she gave it the right answer. Joey's life is over, and it's not because she flew from Fort Lauderdale to Minnesota. That's a different kind of ending. Joey's life is over because she's incorporating pure, divine, spiritual understandings into her life. She's practicing the safety. She's doing everything that she can do to bring herself into a level of understanding and a level of expressive grace that Kundalini is pouring through her at a rate that she can handle, that she can hold, that allows her to make the appropriate choices and allows her to receive training in what it is to make an appropriate choice. The same thing is happening with everybody in the chat room and everybody who's calling in on a telephone. Okay, let's use Greg. Remember Greg? Greg asked those excellent questions at the beginning of the program. So Greg is listening and he's saying, "Oh, okay, I'm feeling this compulsion to write, to speak my voice, to add my voice with this divine imperative into the population so that it can make its presence known to those who may be able to hear it, those who are just waiting to hear it through him and from his words that the divine has given to him to write." It's very important. And so do this, my friends. Keep your divine commitments. Once again, let's just say Kundalini's assigned you a teacher. Okay, that teacher is Swami. Who should we call? Swami
Swami Yogi. We'll just call him Swami Yogi. And the Kundalini is giving you this teacher, and this Kundalini is saying, okay, you need to give devotion to this teacher. And you start giving devotion to the teacher, and Swami Yogi is just like, okay, yes, give you some more. I will give you some more if you practice this much. And so you practice it, and Swami Yogi gives you more and more and more and more and more, and it gets more and more and more challenging, and all of a sudden you just say, well, forget you, Swami Yogi. I'm out of here, buddy. Have a nice life, whatever. Okay. And I'm sure there could be some more colorful words in addition to those. And you leave. And what do you think happens to all the agreements that you've been using as a mantra to the divine? What do you think happens to that? It's still active. Those agreements are still active. They still count. You're going to have to find a way to make amends with your Kundalini, or to make amends with Swami Yogi, because you made commitments given to you by the Kundalini to listen to that teacher, to learn from that teacher, but you went against those commitments. And if you do that, and you don't look to find a form of balance with the commitments that you've been given, it can really turn into a whirlpool of negativity. Nothing will go right for a while. The light will always turn red. You'll always have to stop. Okay? It's just like you can kind of get an idea. Yeah, and the entities love this stuff too. And they'll start coming to you, and they'll start, oh, you don't want to listen to that Kundalini. Doesn't know anything. All it is sexual energy. You hear that a lot. Oh, that Kundalini, that's just sexual energy. And that's, which is so far from the truth as to be laughable. But you'll start getting into a bit of quicksand, and so it doesn't mean that you have to go back to the teacher that you currently despise. It just means that you have to make your I guess the apologies to Grace, and to make your communication with Grace that much stronger, so that if you are given the opportunity to have another flesh teacher, you won't take it for granted. You might listen to it in a different way, listen to that person in a different way. You might begin to accept the challenges that teacher is offering you, and to really, really, really follow through with the commitments to divinity that you've been given to follow through with. It's very important. Very, very, very important. And I just wanted to say that much. Now, I'm going to go to Her Holiness here, the Celtic Queen of Questionable Comforts. Her Holiness Direct, live from Ireland, Amelia Centaura. I don't have the applause. All right, my dear. Have you been able to ask any questions?
Well, I have gathered some.
Yes, please. Let's begin.
I've gathered some. Not a lot this week, but here we go. The first one. Not from the group. If we know a person that has had several Kundalini symptoms, should we try to educate them about it? And if so, how do we go about educating them or introducing to CAS?
Well, you could feed them a couple of websites that you trust. You can maybe drop some material, or just give them some material that coincides with the symptoms they have. They need to have reference points at first. So in order to educate somebody about the Kundalini, we have to make sure that they have a reference point that will begin to respond to the information you're giving. So you might drop them a few websites. You might copy and paste and then print and leave that on the coffee table, or just hand it to them and say, hey, I read about your I Googled some of your symptoms and this is coming up. What do you think? And then you might initiate a conversation about that. I tend to look at 3 or more Kundalini phenomena before I would do something like that. 3 to 5 different Kundalini phenomena is typically how I like to see that, unless, of course, the Shakti has sent them to me specifically, and then I trust my Kundalini, and then by virtue of the agreements I have made with my Kundalini, I begin to do what I'm able to do with the assistance of Kundalini to instruct them in the best way to approach their new activation or their new awakening in the most appropriate fashion. Over.
Thank you, cousin. Can there be instant self-realization after Shaktipat is given by divine?
Yes. Over.
Okay, so can I expand on that? Can there be instant self-realization, and can that change? Can that, let's say, can you be unrealized again?
Oh, no.
No, but you know what I mean. I mean, okay, I'll speak for myself. That question wasn't mine, but, when I had my awakening event, we'll say, I certainly was self-realized. I knew, it was amazing. But after that, I didn't stay in that place of self-realization, if I'm understanding what that means, enlightenment. I didn't stay in that place that I was for those times after my Kundalini awakened. I've never forgotten it, and I know it's in me, but I'm not there now, do you know?
Where are you now?
Well, when people say self-realized, I think they mean that they're, they know it. They've reached this pinnacle where everybody imagines they want to go, and I know that I experienced that, but it didn't stay like that afterwards. It's not like that now. I'm heading back there, perhaps, or maybe I'm going on somewhere else. I don't know.
Or maybe you're regressing.
No, there's a possibility.
I'm
sure there's truth in that.
Growing younger. Self-realization. Self-realization. I'm not sure that's the term that we're talking about here, but we'll go ahead and use it. Self-realization. For those of you that don't understand what that term means that you have become awakened into the divine, and you are now a semi-divine, expressive human being on this world. And Santara is asking the question, well, can that come and go? And yes, it can. It most certainly can. When a person has the spinal sweep, which means that when the energy that's dormant at the base of the spine sweeps up the spine, opening every chakra along the way, all 7 of them, and the person becomes at one with divinity, amazing levels of knowledge are downloaded into the individual. Amazing levels of knowledge. There really is nothing that you cannot know, and there is nothing that is hidden from you. All that is waiting for you is to have yourself changed to the degree where you can have and hold that level of knowledge. And most people have not automatically been born into the world where they have the physical ability to have and to hold that level of knowledge. And so what happens is when the person has a spinal sweep and they're at, they do the divine merge, they become at one with divinity, they're given a taste of what it is to be that way. They're given a taste of that realization. They're given this the experience of being at one with every leaf, with every rock, with every human, animal, insect, fish, piece of stardust. They become at one with the divine, and they know they're at one with the divine. And many areas, at least for me, many areas were so strong during that experience that my body could not have it. It could not hold it. I could not retain it because the signature of the human system was not yet mature enough to have and to hold those levels of grace. So it can come, and it comes as in the ability to insert a reference point within the individual for what that means, what that feels like, what that is. And even though you don't get like clarity with the depth of meaning, or you'll never know everything that God has to offer, but you will be given as much as God sees you're able to have and hold. And this is what happened to me. I remember the experience, but some parts of the experience are just they're shrouded right now. They're shrouded in me because, even after 26 years of the experience now, there's still further, there's more to go. And don't buy into that understanding that self-realization means that you have realized yourself. Well, that's nothing further from the truth. It's not you that have realized anything. It's God that has realized you. Just self-realized just means that you didn't get a Shakti pot from somebody, or you didn't maybe you did Yogananda's thing, you did the Kriya Yoga thing, and after 50 years, the Kundalini finally comes to you. Sorry, I shouldn't have said it that way. But a lot of them have the 50-year plan. So the divine gives you reference material, reference points, so that as it begins to give you shorter bursts of itself through various levels of downloads, downloading information, downloading practice, downloading mantras, downloading its visceral presence within you. So last night I was working with a student, and I was in a state of meditation and receptivity, and I felt and saw, because I can see things. I felt and saw that the divine Shakti was going to come into me in a stronger and a more visceral way. And I prepared myself, and I opened myself to that divine presence, and she came down on 8 streams of energy that affected my body in different ways, and I was given instruction on what to do with that energy. And because this has happened before, but not exactly the same way, this is the first time I've been given 8 different streams of energy, like 8 legs of a spider, you might say. And I felt every level of the energy as it impacted my body. I felt it, and I felt what it was doing. I knew what it was to do, and I knew where it was going, and I knew why it was coming. She gave me all of the information I needed in order to appropriately allow that energy to come through and to do what it needed to do. Okay, that I could only really have because I have reference points that the divine has given me. I've been given reference material for that, so I know that this was indeed from the Shakti Kundalini, and she made herself quite apparent with it. And so, there are different ways that you can have this done, but typically the body needs to go through a series of changes. The mental mind needs to go through a series of changes. The emotional body needs to go through a series of changes, as well as the ego and the physical and the spiritual bodies need to go through levels of changes. Call these upgrades, if you will. And as these upgrades occur, your level of interaction with the divinity will increase. And you will know more, and you'll be able to have that knowledge in greater levels as you further yourself into the divine awareness, as you further yourself. So as you keep your commitments to the divine, as you do your practice, as you practice those safeties, as you commit yourself to the divine inheritance that you are receiving, As you do these things, that energy will just increase. And it's a gift that not only keeps on giving, but it keeps on increasing itself as you consciously open yourself to receiving it. Self-realization gives you that reference point. Self-realization gives you the ability to know that divine union is true. It is a truth. It exists. It's real. It gives you that ability not only to just know it, but to feel it as a fact. Not a fact that you're making up and choosing to believe, but a fact that is real, that you could make this up if you tried. And I heard Amelia Centaura clear her throat, so I will stop it right there. Over, Amelia. What are you doing? I know what you're doing. Hey, Yassine. I see Yassine Beatrice. Good. Are you okay there?
Next question.
You should call 911.
Oh, God. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks to Kundalini. The Kundalini deserves all the credit.
I know. Okay. How to remove blockages from each chakra? Next question.
How to remove blockages from each chakra? Wow. Well, okay, so let's look at it. If we take that question literally, then we need to look at approximately, now folks, this is an approximation, we need to look at 7 trillion or 17 trillion times 7. Okay, so that's what 7 times 17, whatever that is. I'm not a math speed. Anybody work that out? Somebody on the chat room, would you go 17 times 7? Oh, so that would be 114 trillion chakras that a person would want to remove blockages from. So 114 trillion chakras. And you might ask, well, how did you get that number, Kristen? Go ahead, Centaura.
How did you get that number, Kristen?
Well, it's funny you should ask. I got that number because there's approximately 17 trillion cells in the human body, and each cell has the capacity to form a complete human body. We know this through genetics. And so each cell has its own 7 chakra system. And this isn't even including, the other chakras. I'm just going with the main 7. If you add all the other chakras, like the chakras in the fingertips, the chakras in the toe tips, the chakras in the palms, chakras in the elbows and shoulders and knees and ankles and toes and sole of the foot and, et cetera, and so forth. So I'm just going with the main 7. So we have 117 trillion chakras that we want to remove blockages from. And this can be done, by the way. The divine can do that. What you do to remove a blockage is to first realize that a blockage is there. And then you ask your Kundalini, is it appropriate to remove this blockage? Is it appropriate to remove this blockage? And if you get a feeling of, yes, it is appropriate to remove that blockage, we'll just say the blockage is revenge. And we'll say the person wants to remove revenge from the heart chakra. Well, that's absolutely appropriate. If any of you have access to the safety protocols, and I'll give you the address right now, it's www.KundaliniAwakeningSystems1.com. And you go to the menu on the left side, and the 5th option down on the left is the safety protocols for Kundalini Awakening. Well, you go through those protocols, and those protocols, if you do those protocols in reality with gusto daily, You will remove those blockages from all the different chakras that they may appear in. But if you're trying to manipulate the chakra, and you're trying to, without recognition of the Kundalini or without recognition of divine source, you're just going in there like, say, like a Reiki person would just like kind of go in there and try to physically or mentally try to extract a blockage or remove a blockage. Well, you're in fantasy land now. You're in fantasy land with that. If the Kundalini doesn't give you an indication that there is a blockage that needs to remove, that blockage is doing just fine. And that blockage is serving you in some way, in some capacity. That blockage is serving you, and it's giving you a target on how to change your behaviors. So that person would just want to take out the availability and desire for revenge out of the heart chakra. Okay? You can remove a blockage by changing your behaviors, not by letting somebody else diddle around in your energetic anatomy. You can remove a blockage by asking the Kundalini to help you with it, to pinpoint what needs to be done. You can remove a blockage, by doing these things. Well, for instance, when I said, if you get in your car, you want to make sure that you're not putting on the gloves of the ego again. Well, that would indicate a change in your behavior. So instead of getting in your car and putting on your ego gloves, well, you're getting in your car and you're keeping the Kundalini gloves on you. And those gloves are helping to change your behavior. I'm only using the gloves as an analogy. I won't say there are no such things as Kundalini gloves. I'm sure there are, but I'm not talking about that right now. Okay. All right. Thank you, Amelia. Please continue.
That's great. Thank you, Chrism. Next question. Many have learned Reiki. Was Dr. Yuzi self-realized, had CD skills as healing? Or had he CD skills as healing?
Okay. Can you read that again?
Yes, sorry. Many have learned Reiki. Was Dr. Yuzi, how do you know who I mean, self-realized?
Usui.
Usui. I'll start again. Many have learned Reiki. Was Dr. Usui self-realized or had Siddhi skills as healing?
Yes, Dr. Usui was indeed self-realized, and he did, through that self-realization, have Siddhic skills that aided him in healing. But he was a doctor, he was an MD also already. What he called Reiki, other people have kind of like latched onto that term, and now you could be hunting frogs, and that would be frog Reiki, or you're eating ice cream, that's vanilla Reiki, or you've got so many different Reiki scenarios out there now, and of course they're all charging you money so that they can put their entity-infested hands on you. Oh, did I say that? Oh my God.
No.
I only said that. I don't want to offend anybody who's listening who's a Reiki practitioner. There are a lot of forms of Reiki. They ask for entities to plug into them so that they can give somebody a Reiki session. Dr. Usui didn't use any of those things. Dr. Usui was Kundalini awakened. Okay, he was Kundalini awakened. All these Reiki people, they're buying their Reiki mastership for $10 online, and then calling themselves a Reiki master, and it's just so far from the truth. It's so far from what is true. Reiki these days is nothing that I would trust. I wouldn't let anybody that is a Reiki practitioner put their hands on me or my students or my family or even my cat. Although Lasha, she'd probably take a swipe at him anyway. She has temper issues. But Dr. Usui himself, he climbed Mount Fuji. I think it was Mount Fuji. And he found a cave about 2/3 of the way up, maybe a little further up. And he decided that he was going to meditate in that cave, staring out the entrance of that cave, until he received some sort of a gift. He didn't know what he was looking for, but he knew that there was something more out there that he had not attained through his righteous living. This man was a very, very, very provocative doctor in the 1920s Japan, Okinawa, I believe. And in the slums of the city, he would give his services for free. He would accept chicken eggs as payment. I mean, the guy was really an outstanding person, a very kind, compassionate, giving individual, just the kind of individual that will have a Kundalini awakening. And so he felt compelled to go further, and he knew that there was something more to experience. And so he decided he was going to meditate there. And then when he was there and he was meditating, he made another choice. He made another commitment. He basically said to himself, I will receive this gift, or I will meditate here in this cave until I die. And subsequently, he noticed a light, a ball of light, far, far, far off in the distance. And he saw that this brilliant light was moving at him closer and closer and closer and closer, until it actually impacted his third eye, his sixth chakra. And it induced a Kundalini awakening event upon him. And after that, his life was radically changed. Radically changed. And from then on, he was able to use the special skills that Kundalini gives to increase his already strong ability to give people healing. And this increased and increased and increased, and it continued until his death. And Reiki was what he called the life force energy that he felt was what this was. And that's what Reiki means in Japanese, life force energy. And other people have kind of hijacked that term and turned it into a money-making scenario, and making justifications. Well, healers have a right to live too. Dr. Usui wasn't doing that, and he could have. So where do these other people, get off kind of like changing the rules of his experience by trying to make themselves wealthy, and trying to co-opt a pure Kundalini gift into something that is commercial and that you can buy a mastership for $10 on the web? It's a little bit of a stretch for me, maybe a big stretch for me. Dr. Usui was indeed self-realized, he gave and he gave and he gave, and he didn't take a lot in return. And so he was given that very, very special gift. Over.
Thank you, Prism. What is the difference between faith and trust?
Between faith and trust? What is the difference between faith and trust? I would say they're very, very similar. And the differences are really unimportant. You trust in the divine, you have faith in the divine. If you trust the divine, then you have that willingness to give your confidence that the divine, the Kundalini divine, is going to do that which it is you're trusting it to do. Well, it's the same thing with faith. But the one thing I do know is that in order to develop trust and faith, one cannot know the answers. Over.
Thank you, Kristen. This is from the group. Is it right that during badly phrased. Is it right during meditation to want to flow at space? Instead, I am grounding in earth. I feel more safe at external distractions. I understand. Did you get that?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
It's better to do both. This person wants to stop being grounded because it's harder, and you have to face your trials and your tribulations and your karma. It's work. You have to do it, and it's constant work. You're constantly trying to balance your karma, trying to live an ethically and moral life. You're trying to be of service with people, but people don't know. They're not K awakened or K activated, and so they're giving you all the hurt. They're giving you all the pain. They're giving you all the different levels of negative human contact. You're still receiving, but that should help you to forgive. That should help you to be tolerant. That should help you to be kind and patient. And so you continue to ground yourself in the earth, in the Shakti, but you extend yourself. Like, for instance, Mike, I have this Kundalini cone above my fontanelle, and it just goes up, 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 and up, and it doesn't stop, and I can't even visualize an ending to it. And so in a sense, I am grounded, or I am ascended in that way, too. So I have the grounding that is keeping me here on this world and allowing me to do all this work that I'm here to do. And yet I have the ascension that has propelled my energy to the farthest reaches of the cosmos and beyond. And so you want to do both. You don't want to do just one or the other. Oh.
Thank you, Kristen. Am I supposed to understand all the visions my Kundalini gives me?
Yes. but not everybody can, because in our society we're not even taught that Kundalini exists. And so we're coming at this from a great deficit of information. And so what will happen is you look at the phenomena that the Kundalini is giving you, and you try to figure it out. But I will suggest that you go online and you see if anybody else has had shared phenomena that way. Well, let's just use Kriyas, for example. And you'll find a bunch of different meanings for Kriyas, and oh my gosh, people just love to get their ego involved in that. And it's like, well, the Kriyas mean this, and that. It's a divine expression of change upon the body. But you may not know that, but you might start feeling that. And what I would suggest you first do, really, is ask the Kundalini what it means in what it's giving you. If it's giving you Kriyas, well, ask the Kundalini, what do those Kriyas mean? And trust the response that you get, even if it sounds so outlandish that you couldn't even imagine. Having something like what is occurring to you with the Kundalini occurring. Okay, it goes far beyond your imagination, but you still must trust that. You must have faith in that. Okay, you won't necessarily know, but the Kundalini, instead of answering you, well, it means this, and that, it may direct you to a teacher. It may direct you to a book. It may direct you to a source of information that allows you to begin to learn and grow and accept. And I'm going to give you a few places where you can get this information right now. And one of them is a YouTube channel, and it's Chrism.Kundalini. That's CHRISM KUNDALINI, and that's on the YouTube network. And if you go there, you go there, you'll see about 333 videos for you to take information from. You can go to the website I mentioned before, KundaliniAwakeningSystems1.com. That's the numeral 1. You can go to the Yahoo group, which is Kundalini Awakening Systems 1 at Yahoo Groups. You can go to Kundalini Awakening ! On Facebook, as well as Kundalini Awakening Systems 2 and Systems 3 on Facebook. I have about 9 groups on Facebook and about 9 different pages on Facebook as well. Go to Chris Mitchell, Mitchell, on Facebook. No. Yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That was my phone, Chrism. No.
Oh, I see. Okay, and you can also go to Kundalini Matters at, what is that, Gmail? What is that?
Yes, gmail.com.
At gmail.com, and Kundalini Living, which is Eileen's, and I'm going to bring Eileen on. Give me that correct address for your thing, Eileen.
Kundalini Living at blogspot.com.
At blogspot.com. Thank you, my dear. Thank you.
Sure.
And here we go. Here and back there. And so you can go to those 2 blog spots. You can go to Ascension-Kundalini blog there. There's also a Kundalini Awakening Systems UK for our friends in the European continent, and so on and so forth. Did you have anything to add to that, Santara?
No, Chrism, that's fine. There's Kundalini Matters on Facebook as well. I post some stuff there. Kundalini Matters on Facebook, and no, I can't think of anything else. Can I go back to that other question, though, that I just asked you, if I may?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, just about the visions, the person asking particularly about visions. What would you suggest a person does? They ask their Kundalini for the meaning. What else can they do in relation to that?
They're having visions, then, is what they're having.
Am I supposed? Yeah, that was the question, actually. Am I supposed to understand all the visions my Kundalini gives me? So they're having visions, and I think they mean visions rather than dreaming.
Okay, well, I don't think that they're expected to understand everything, but I think what is being given to them are reference points are being planted for them, so that as they continue to have visions, those reference points may develop into a pattern, and those patterns may begin to elicit levels of knowledge that person can absorb. Over.
And would a person keep a vision diary, the same as you say to people to keep a
Go ahead.
A dream diary?
Oh, yes. Keep a vision diary as well as a dream diary.
Okay.
Definitely.
The next question, is it a totally no-go to take antidepressives when Kundalini is activated?
Yes. Absolutely, without a doubt. You get those SSRIs out of your system permanently. You're not sick. You're not ill. You have Kundalini, and science doesn't know anything about Kundalini except they feel that they can dumb it down by loading you up with Prozac-based medications and then putting a straitjacket on you and hauling you off to the psych ward. That's how they handle it. That's how science handles it. I mean, you got to understand, this is a belief system. Science is a belief system where if you have the most beautiful, the most rarest creature that you can find on this world, there's only like a handful of them there. Well, let's kill one, sacrifice it for science. This is this is that. So no, within the Kundalini context, you are not sick, you are not ill, and you are not in need of medication. You're in need of education. Let education be your medication. You heard it here first, folks. Okay, Amelia, we have a new call in. Can you check with them?
Certainly can.
Thank you, and I'll go ahead with that. You do not need to think you're sick. Now, of course, you have the Kundalini come up and you don't know what it is, and the first thing you're going to do is sequester yourself at the ER, and they're going to take all of these tests of you, and you're going to take a very, 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 detailed history of your symptoms, and they're, they'll just hear a few things. Oh, hearing voices is a great one. They say, oh, you're hearing voices. Okay, no, it's perfectly okay. As they get the rubber room ready. Everything is fine, Mr. Chrism. Oh, yes. Oh, no. Nothing's wrong with hearing voices. And as they take the straitjacket out of the closet and they start stepping towards your address, yeah, you don't want to tell medical people that you're having Kundalini, because the first thing they think that you're having is schizophrenia. The second thing that they think you're going to be having is bipolarism. Okay? So no. You do not need to take any kind of a tranquilizer for Kundalini symptoms. You just need to get some education as your medication. Are you back there, Santara?
I'm back, sir. Yes, I am. Beatrice is online, and she has a question for you.
Oh, it's so nice not to have to hover,
Yeah, isn't it?
Okay, hello.
Hi, Hi, Chrism. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Good to hear you. I have a question that I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
Like 2 weeks ago, I was going to sleep, and I felt right before I was about to fall asleep, I felt like this thing on the back of my neck, and it was making like a...
What thing? What do you mean a thing?
To me, I took it like it was an entity on my neck, sitting on my neck, slurping, making a slurpy sound. And right away when I heard that, at first I didn't understand what was going on, and I felt it making a slurpy sound, and I said, "What is that?" And I heard it, and I got up out of my bed and I started praying to the Kundalini. I said, "I think that's an entity," and I started praying to the Kundalini to remove it off of me. And the moment I started praying to the Kundalini, it came off of me. I just wanted to know if I don't know if I made a mistake. If I think my Kundalini had given me like a message, a vision in my dream that this was going to happen, and I was supposed to say, I got a vision of Hanuman say a mantra, but I didn't say the mantra. Instead, I prayed straight to the Kundalini. So what I'm thinking or what I'm feeling, am I correct?
Oh, was it an entity slurping your energy as it came up?
Yes.
Maybe so. Right there at the base of the skull is something called the hammer. And as Kundalini energy comes up the spine, sometimes that hammer will automatically start stimulating. Can you turn your computer down, Beatrice? Because I'm going to start hearing the echo.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
So the hammer can get engaged, and it'll feel like a little tick, 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 or sometimes a real at the base of your spine or at the base of your skull, and that's modulating the energy as it goes into the seventh chakra. But you were hearing something like...
Yes.
Right?
Yes, just like that same sound.
Yeah. That could have been an entity, but you did the right thing regardless of what it was. You prayed directly to the Kundalini. Here's the deal. You're not a Hindu, right?
No, I was born as a Catholic.
Right. So you don't really gel that much with prayers to Hanuman. Now, I understand that Hanuman, you were given instructions before to pray to Hanuman before for something completely different, right?
It was. It gave me. It told me to pray if I felt any entities on me, or to say this mantra, to use it for entities. That was the message that I got, that came across to me with that mantra, with Hanuman. So I figured I was supposed to use that mantra for this that I was feeling on my neck, but instead of saying the mantra, what I did was that I prayed straight to the Kundalini.
I think that's the better thing to do.
Okay.
I think you're right on target, and I think that's why you were compelled not to go straight to Hanuman with that. Okay?
Okay.
I think that was a direction from your Kundalini.
Okay. I had another question that I wanted to ask you.
Sure.
I have an aunt. I believe she has Kundalini because she has a lot of the symptoms that I had. And in her home, she hears a snake, the sound of a snake. And she was hearing it very low. And now she hears it very, the sound is very high. And I was thinking, she's a person that is kind of like filled with a lot of fears, and I remember in one of your videos you said that.
So she's terrified.
She's terrified, and I remember you said that if you see the serpent, it's the size of your ego, and if you have a big ego, then that's how big the serpent will be. And she keeps hearing it, and in my mind, I think that maybe she might see this snake that she hears in her home. She's going to wind up seeing it. Is this snake that she hears all around her home, is that because she's about to be awoken? Or in my mind, I'm thinking that she's being defragmented, and she hasn't really changed a lot of the things that she needed to do, and now she's probably coming close to an awakening. I'm just assuming all of these things. That's why I called you.
Well, I think that I don't recall saying that if you have a big ego, then you'll have a big snake. But if you're in resistance to the Kundalini, if there's a lot of resistance there, then that indeed can increase the size of the serpent you might encounter. As far as she's concerned, this you might start giving her some Kundalini information.
I have.
Well, then it's up to her.
I've given her your website, and I have her reading books about the Kundalini.
Well, that's good. That's good. And so just let that continue. Let that continue, and let her education increase as it needs to. Now, not necessarily, perhaps as fast as yours. People have different, they have different abilities to hold this kind of information, because in many ways, you're fighting a lot of societal assumptions about what is and what isn't when you're working with the Kundalini, and so she may have some redefinements to encounter first.
Okay. Is that a good sign if you hear the serpent?
I do think it's a good sign. I do think that it's a positive thing. If she can start adjusting her fear levels to accept the positivity of what is occurring, things will go, of course, much better for her.
I told her not to.
Yeah, information is power. Beatrice, information is power. And so you give her as much information. Give her some of those YouTube.
I did. I gave her your YouTube channel. I told her to watch, to listen to all your videos, and I told her not to be afraid, not to be afraid, because I told her that the serpent is it's one of God's animals from the and it's from the kingdom of God, and we should never be afraid of any of the animals of God that God has created.
Well, we should be very, very respectful of them, though. I mean, we shouldn't be afraid of them. We should respect them tremendously, though. Make sure she knows how to work YouTube.
Yes. I will teach her
how to do that. You need to go over there and make sure, walk her through it, okay? Because I have a feeling she doesn't know how to use it.
No, she doesn't. She's older, and she doesn't have much experience.
So walk her through it, Beatrice, okay?
Okay, I will. Thank you so much, Crystal.
You're welcome, my dear. Thank you for calling.
Okay.
And I wonder if Centaura is still awake. Are you still awake?
I am. That was a potential attempt at a snore. I am awake. It's great to hear Beatrice on again, and it's nice having a regular caller, isn't it?
It's nice. It is nice.
Yeah.
Thank you, Beatrice.
The next question, Chrism, isn't so much a question. It's, I suppose I'd like you maybe to speak about stones and maybe the potential of, what might be called stone power and giving, yourself over, too much power over to them. Like, it's a story about a person who thought that they had a throat chakra blockage, and they were into stones and placed a huge turquoise, on the throat, and continued. As a matter of fact, things got a lot worse. But then the person took that off and immediately realized that, things were different, that perhaps the stone was causing a difficulty there.
Yeah.
Speak on that a bit, please.
I will.
Thank you.
People go through this phase. They go through a phase where they really, really, really get into rocks. They get into gems. They get into crystals. And there's a whole healing modality that's based in the mineral kingdom. And some of it is really, really great. Some of it can do very, very, very good things. And some of it is really, really kind of silly. Amethyst, is known for its qualities of keeping your head clear, of giving yourself clarity, of giving yourself the ability not to become befuddled by alcohol or THC or heroin or any of those types of things. And so it gives a person a level of sobriety that they wouldn't, say, normally have. Amethyst is also one of the 12 gems that were on the one of the Jewish shields that had potential power as well. So you have amethyst, you have rubies, you have the different stones that do different things. The only stone that I would really look at with any kind of confidence would be quartz crystal. Quartz crystal is very strong in its ability to maintain what it is, even outside of this terrestrial expression. So if you go into the astral, well, that quartz crystal that you have will still be that quartz crystal there as it is on the physical. And that's one of the only stones that will do that. As far as healing modalities, or some people like to use black tourmaline to get rid of entities. I've never, ever, ever encountered a person where that has actually worked. But of course, it doesn't have to work. It just has to have word of mouth, and it spreads its disservice all over the place. Yeah, you can play around with the stones. I don't know that they are effective. I was, I have a lot of reference material for crystals and gemstones and how they're used, and the different patterns that a person can place them in on the body for specific reasons. I have never, ever encountered where it worked at all in any way, shape, or form. But maybe that's just my experience. I had Kundalini for 26 years.
Do you think they can cause damage, Prism?
No, I
maybe
think
not so much of them.
I think she would have gotten worse, whether she was wearing the stone or not. Okay.
Do you think removing the stone could be about, choosing to take away your reliance upon that and focusing on the Kundalini?
Well, I think that we're looking at the whole placebo effect, right? She places the stone on her throat and it doesn't work, and so things get worse, and so she takes the stone off and things get better, and so she's going, oh, okay, this stone is not to be used for my throat chakra with the issue that I'm feeling with it. I won't say that it's bogus because I think that if people put enough belief into a system, they can actually make that system work because of their belief in it. It's the power of their belief that will make that system work. Is it that way for everybody? No, absolutely not. Can it cause damage? If the person believes that it can cause damage, or they believe enough in the power of stones, then yeah, the reverse can be true. Instead of healing, it can hurt. I would just not tend to gravitate towards stones. Like I did, I went through that little stage of time where oh my gosh, I have to have this type of a stone on the right hand or this type of a stone on the left hand. With the Kundalini, the closest I get to that are color frequencies. So dark, bright, or I should say bright, dark, refractive, deep ruby blood red stones would be worn on the left, and then a cobalt blue of a gemmy type of glass would be worn on the right. And that's about as far as I get with the gems and the Kundalini, except for gold and silver, gold being worn on the right and silver being worn on the left. Those are also used as expressions of divine male and divine female. Divine female being the silver and divine male being the gold. And then we have white powder of gold, right? And so now we're getting into two gemmy types of things where if you take it, well, you can be activated in your Kundalini and basically set up yourself as a smorgasbord for entities, which is typically what happens when people take the white powder gold. But yeah, so there's that. I don't know if I answered your question clearly enough, but I don't put a lot of trust or faith in it at this point. Amelia, over. Hello. Oh, Amelia got bumped off. Am I still on? Mary Jean, Vincent, am I still? Please type. If I can see you typing it, I'll know that I'm not necessarily talking to dead air. It looks like my timer is still going here. Vincent, Mary Jean. Oh, here we go. Okay. So I'm still being heard. Yeah. So I don't have a lot of confidence. Thank you, Atlantis Seeker, Mary Jean. Thank you for that. Don't have a lot of confidence in gemology or the healing power of stones. I know books have been written about it, and ancient people practiced it. So I'm not going to completely dismiss it. There you are. You're back.
Yeah, I got bumped off. Didn't know it was you were bumped off from me. So
No.
I'm talking the whole time.
Atlantis Seeker and Mary Jean and Yassine, I believe, straighten me up on that. So no, I'm still here. What's your next question, Santara?
Next question is, I'm having some inner turmoil. I keep doubting and questioning myself. How do I silence this ego?
Read it again, please.
Okay. I'm having some inner turmoil. I keep doubting and questioning myself. How do I silence this ego? Hello?
Stand by. I'm here. Hang on a second. You solve the issue that is causing you the inner turmoil. The ego is responding to the turmoil. If you take the turmoil out of the equation, the ego has nothing to respond to. So you solve that issue first, and that turmoil will be taken away from the ego as an option for expression. Over.
Okay. That is it, Chrism. I have no more questions.
You do or you don't?
I do not. I beg your pardon. Nope.
Okay, all right. Well, good enough. Well, that gives us about 13 minutes left, and if anybody would like to call in, or if anybody in the chat room would like to ask a question by writing it down there in the chat room, please feel free to do so. If you'd like to call in, if you're listening on your computer, call in at 347 is the area code, and then 934-0026, 347-934-0026. And, okay. So let's continue along. Let's do a little bit of a recap here. Keep your divine commitments. Keep them strong. Don't let yourself get lazy. Part of the thing is you won't always be able to see the divine. You won't always be able to see it. You won't always know that it's there by using your five senses. Okay. It's there regardless of whether your five senses record that or not. Understand that it's there. It's waiting, working with you, being with you, transforming you. That's what it's all about. Now I see that Atlantis Seeker is typing. She's probably typing a question. But I want you to really understand how important that is. You do not get to shrug God's hand off of your shoulder because it's inconveniencing you. You don't get to do that. Okay. I want you to understand that. It's very important for you to understand that you need to pay attention now. You've got the Kundalini. You've got what millions of people want to have. You've got it now. Now respect it. Give it your highest respect. Allow yourself to be changed by the Kundalini. Allow this transformation to begin or to continue. It's a loss of the old life in a way, but it's also the gaining of a new life as well. So even though you're losing one life, you're gaining another, and you don't necessarily lose the memory of what the one you're leaving behind gave you. So in a sense, you have a full record of that life. Now, it looks like Mary Jean is asking, she says, do you think there are some kinds of injustices in one's past that they should not try to forgive in the K process? Oh yes, that there is never an injustice that cannot be forgiven, Atlantis Seeker. And she gives the example of a Holocaust survivor. Well, yes, indeed. Those German soldiers, those German Nazis, they're the ones that need to be forgiven the most. And when you forgive a person, you begin to distance yourself from that injustice. The last thing you want to do is hang on to a grudge which constantly keeps you attached to the harm that was done and is continuing to be done through that attachment. So there is never, ever an injustice in one's past or present that should not be forgiven, especially forgiven within the Kundalini process, especially with Kundalini. Okay. So there we have it. Well, Santara, come back online. Here you are. I would like to give you the opportunity for last words, my dear. You're welcome.
Okay, well, I love what you said there, cousin. Oh, sorry. Can you
Go
hear
ahead.
me?
Yes.
Yeah, I really liked that question there from, was it Atlantis Seeker or MJ? And what you said about there's nothing that can't be forgiven, and you said about distancing yourself from that injustice, because if you don't, you stay attached to that injustice. Is that what you said?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and yeah, that's very powerful. Thank you. Do I have anything to say about the rest?
Anything.
I liked what you said earlier on. You know, sometimes we fail, but we don't have to allow a fall from grace to gain momentum. We can, we just don't disrespect the Kundalini, and it's a great thing to review the agreement we've made with our Kundalini. And you said that, audit your agreement, and look at how well we're following through on the agreements, because how are we communicating that agreement with our Kundalini in the world? And I just liked that, what you said about reviewing and auditing them. And I think that helps us to, especially when we're in that place of, that can help us to come back again to that very agreement that we made in the first place. That's it, really. That's all I have to say.
Well, thank you, everybody, for listening. I will end the show just a few minutes early, about a little less than 7 minutes early. And I just want to thank everybody for coming. I want to welcome Joey back to Minnesota, and I'd like to welcome Tahia to come back, and everybody else there in the chat room to come back. Thank you for joining us today. And here we go.